Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. All right. Hey, we got a great group here. We had a great session yesterday, and it's always my honor to take a few minutes here as we wrap up this morning's session and talk a little bit about the future of the organization. So, of course, this is our 104th annual meeting, so thank you all for taking the time to be here. We've talked about this a few times, but of course the motto of this meeting is looking back at our legacy and looking ahead at our future. So as we talk about those things today, know that those are, I think, some of the most important ingredients for making sure that we maintain a very, very strong organization. Last year, you guys were looking at our finances and inflation, and we were looking at our dues. And I take my hats off to the delegates for being brave last year and taking the actions that you needed to take to make sure that we put our organization in a strong financial position by taking action to increase dues for the first time in almost 10 years. So thank you guys for doing that. It's not easy. Nobody likes to talk about dues increases, but you guys took the actions that were needed to put us in a very good place. So just know that your organization is financially strong and well positioned for the future. So speaking of the future, our strategic plan. So we put together a strategic plan every so many years to make sure that we're keeping our eye focused on the future. Our current strategic plan we put together for the years 22, 23, and 24. It has 4 key goals: advocacy, value creation and delivery, meaningful engagement, and organizational strength. We're 1 year into the current strategic plan, and we are already seeing a series of results. So underneath those 4 goals, I want to talk about a few of those successes that we've experienced this year. First, under goal number 1, advocacy. A couple years ago, a group of our young farmers and ranchers decided that they wanted to take an action that was meaningful for the state of Ohio. The concern was how do we create some incentives to pass existing farms on to young farmers? They had the idea of creating a tax incentive program. They brought that idea to our policy development committee that liked the idea, passed the policy development committee, went to the delegate floor, and you guys as our delegates passed it, made it official Farm Bureau policy. Our state staff went to work, working with Susan Manchester, State Representative Manchester. She drafted a bill in the State House. We moved it through, and after a number of hearings, negotiations, research, we celebrated this past April 21st with Governor Mike DeWine signing House Bill 95 into law. Great work, guys. Great work. I want to thank Susan Manchester and her husband, Isaac. Isaac Gray is here. He is one of our delegates, voting delegates this year. Their family is involved also in agriculture, so they know the true meaning of what this legislation was all about. So thanks, Susan, and thanks, Isaac. We really appreciate your work. When we talk about our many successes in policy, we have to look at the State House. We have to look at Washington, D.C. We think about the number of things that we do to make sure that we're working hard for you guys in public policy. We had great discussions yesterday morning. I'm looking forward to more this afternoon as we set our policy. It is very, very meaningful. So let me talk about a couple more things in that space. First, I want to thank the rest of our agricultural friends, our mini groups. We call them the Commodity Roundtable. It's our official agriculture coalition here in Ohio. We worked together on a number of things. They were all very supportive of HB 95, so we thank them for all of their coalition work with us to support that legislation. Also, as we look toward the state of Ohio, what else did we need? More meat processing. It's something we talk about quite a bit in Ohio, was that we have a lot of good meat processors in the state, but we just needed more processing capacity in particular. COVID especially brought us around to this, to this need. It was very clear. Ohio Farm Bureau working downtown, we were able to create the Meat Processing Grant Program that has now awarded 128 meat processors in 59 of Ohio's 88 counties with more than $28 million to expand their meat processing facilities. Great work, folks. The H2 Ohio program. Again, this was a program that started with Ohio Farm Bureau, reaching out to our partners, the Nature Conservancy, and our Ohio Commodity Friends. It was an idea. Now it's grown into a $120 million program that has now resulted in 2,400 contracts signed, representing 1.5 million acres, or 35% of Northwest Ohio farm ground, being enrolled in water quality, nutrient management, soil health programs. People were concerned about agriculture and water quality. We stood up and said, we don't need mandates. If you let us create programs that are going to work for farmers, they will work. Thank you guys. Many of you guys in this room are part of that program. We appreciate you being part of it and doing our part for water quality. Thanks, everybody. We are also working on issues like eminent domain, farmland preservation in the 2023 Farm Bill. Our AgPack and Friends of Agriculture program was also very successful this past year. 92% of all the legislatures who are designated Friends of Agriculture were either elected or reelected. Terrific success, including, of course, three very key Friends of Agriculture that we had. Actually, they were all guests. There's the picture. We had Sharon Kennedy at Ag Day last year. A lot of you guys were at Ag Day, and she spoke. She was our keynote. She did a fabulous job. People were excited to support her and her campaign as Chief Justice, but also Pat Fisher and Pat Kennedy, two of the other candidates for the Supreme Court. They all came down to Ag Day, and we had a terrific visit with them. All three were successful at their election bids. We appreciate that. And then also, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was somebody that we didn't know very well. And we asked J.D. Vance to come learn about agriculture. And he will admit he didn't know a whole lot about agriculture. Bob Peterson helped take him under his wing. We appreciate Bob working with him and reaching out to him. He came over to the Ohio Farm Bureau and met with our board of directors. And they screened him. And they screened Tim Ryan. And these guys, our board of directors, don't pull any punches. It was an exciting hour that they spent with him, talking to him and asking him about all kinds of things and what his positions were on them. And he responded very, very well. He also went out and visited the state fair. He went to the Farm Science Review. He went out to a number of your guys' farms. We appreciate all the time he spent working to get to know agriculture and ultimately being elected as well after being selected as a friend of agriculture. And as Bill mentioned yesterday, it was really interesting. Right at the very end of the election, he was playing an ad over and over. And in that ad, he said, proudly supported by and proudly endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police and the Ohio Farm Bureau. And that was the ad that he chose to play. So we appreciate our new relationship with J.D. Vance. Goal number 2 in the strategic plan area, value creation. I've heard very consistently from our county farm bureaus that they're looking for new ideas and help and options in delivering value to members. So with that in mind, we created a pilot project in those 8 counties up in Northwest Ohio. We appreciate their support in this endeavor. We put in a new staff model in that area, and we're creating new value delivery ideas that we're going to be testing in those 8 counties. We've talked a lot about this with the county presidents over the last couple of weeks in our county roundtables. We're looking forward to the results of the pilot project. It acts on the things that we've heard from our members, which is help us deliver that value, and in particular, a catchphrase that's caught on as we've been talking about this process, and it is leading with the value versus asking somebody to join Farm Bureau. We want them to see the value and they want to join Farm Bureau, not we have to necessarily go ask them. So we want to see how this works. We're very excited about it. Goal number 3, engagement. How do we support the next generation in workforce development, which are going to be critical for Ohio and in particular for the Ohio agricultural industry? You guys heard a lot about Explore Ag and all the excitement there. A lot of terrific work happening there. We're going to be expanding the locations of Explore Ag this coming summer. Very happy to see that. I love hearing the testimonials from parents and from young people about the Explore Ag program. I had a number of parents approach me. The staff heard me talk about this, and the board have heard me talk about this quite a bit. How many times I got approached from Farm Bureau parents whose kids went to Explore Ag program the last couple years, and they just came up and they said, no matter what you do, don't stop doing that program. Don't stop doing that program. And they would talk about how their son or daughter did the program, and that was a couple of them were a couple of years ago and are now majoring in agriculture. And they said, look, they had an interest in ag, but they figured out exactly what they wanted to do by going into that program. And I'll tell you, that just means the world to us. So we really appreciate that and all the testimonials we've heard here today about that program. Also, for younger folks, we'll be doing some new work in ag in the classroom. And also for the 18 to 35-year-olds, our Young Ag Professionals Winter Leadership Experience will be held at Kalahari Resort here at the end of January. We look forward to seeing everybody there, and registration is still open. So if you've not registered yet, please, please do. So as part of our engagement goal, we value the power of partnerships. So I want to thank our partners and talk a little bit about a number of the things that we do with our very, very key and many terrific partners. It was said at the soybean dinner last Monday night. I love going over to Soybean Association's annual meeting. One of the folks on stage said at one point, and I'll give the shout out to Kirk Merritt, they said, if you're in the room, you're part of our family. If you're in the room, you're part of our family. You all are in the room. You all are definitely part of our family. We have so many terrific friends and family. Let me start off with Nationwide, our heritage partner. I want to thank them for so many different pieces of work that we've done together this past year. I'll just highlight a couple of them. The Golden Owl program in particular. It's presented by Nationwide, Ohio FFA, Ohio Farm Bureau, Farm Credit Mid-America, and Ag Credit. We award this recognition to an outstanding Ohio agricultural educator each year. Congratulations this year to the honoree, Barrett Zimmerman of Vanguard Sentinel Vocational School. Terrific work done there. Also, know that the nominations for 2023 are now open, and they're open until the end of the month. So if you have a particular ag educator in mind that you would like to nominate for the Golden Owl, please go ahead and get your application in now. Also, with Nationwide, Grain Bin Safety Program. Nationwide awarded this past year 58 fire departments, 6 of those in Ohio, with grain rescue tubes. I want to thank combined Nationwide and the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences for a whole series of activities this past year. First off, of course, the Ohio State Fair, the Land and Living building that we all work together on, and the grand drives that we all work together on. We enjoyed those activities very, very much. Also, all of our partners, that whole crowd right there, there they are, get them up on the screen. That whole crowd right there, that's our group. That's our Commodity Roundtable group that works very closely on the Land and Living building at the State Fair and many other projects throughout the year. Nationwide and Ohio State also working together created the Ag Tech Innovation Hub at OSU. We look forward to the work of that new group. Ag Leadership Development in the Ag One program. We look forward to the efforts there. A number of folks have been enrolled in that program this year. The Dean's Charity Steer Show, which raised $250,000 for the Ronald McDonald House. We also all work together on the 4-H Celebration of Youth, on Cultivating a Cure, and on the Waterman Farm Vision. The vision for Waterman Farms, if you've not been there yet, we saw some videos yesterday that Kurt showed you. Fascinating work going on there. And we talk about Ohio State positioning itself for the future. This puts Ohio State ahead of all these other land grants, in my opinion, across this country by the things that are happening at Waterman Farm. It's putting us in a place to be innovative here in the state, but also putting us in front of so many other colleges that we've always said, hey, look, we're competing with them. This will put us ahead of them. So love the work that's happening there and the vision for where we're headed with the College of Food, Ag, and Environmental Sciences. Now I think Ty had a slide. There it is. I want to put up this slide for a second. We just threw this in yesterday because I wanted to talk about this again with the State Fair. You guys last year as delegates took action to say that you wanted a couple important things about the State Fair. There's a lot of activity going on out there, a lot of conversations about the State Fair and the future of the State Fair. And I can tell you that there's some people that want to dismantle the State Fair. They want to do away with it, want to chop it up and sell it in pieces. It was a real problem. We needed to make sure that Ohio agriculture came together to be very clear about the future of the State Fair. You guys created that vision for us. It was pretty simple. Keep the fair where it is. Don't let it get disassembled anymore. Don't shrink that footprint down. And invest in the future of it. Let's make it the absolute best state fair it can be, if not the best in the country. That's a big goal. You guys set it for us. We worked hard and quick last year, and by midwinter, we put out a vision across all the agricultural groups of what we wanted to see in the state fair. The governor listened. He put together the 2050 task force. They did all kinds of work, fast work this past year, and they put together a new vision, and these are some of the pictures of it right here on this slide. It was released yesterday at the Expo Commission. He wants to put this in his budget this year, and he wants this project done before he comes out of office in 4 years. It is a complete reconstruction of the state fair facility. It is a massive rebuild to make it one of the best state fairs in the country. That, folks, for our young people would be amazing. We got to stay vigilant on it if we want to share this vision, and we definitely support it. We're going to have to work hard at it. There's a lot of people who may not be on board out there, but I think for our young people, this is what we got to have for this state of Ohio. So we appreciate the governor's enthusiasm, the 2050 group, and the agriculture groups for their strong interest in this vision for a new state fair, a much improved state fair in the location that it's at. I didn't know Jaden Porter's family went to the Land and Living building every year. You heard the young man talk about that just a few minutes ago. I mean, talk about a state fair story right there. It is too. You know, he was an Explorer Ag, and then he ended up coming over and working for us here this summer at the Land and Living building. That state fair is something that serves the young people of all 88 counties in Ohio. So again, thank you to all of our friends and partners as we work through that project. Also, along with all of our commodity friends, soy, corn and wheat, ag business, cattle, pork, poultry, dairy, and sheep. We did a number of things on water quality, which we felt very proud about. This year, we continued H2 Ohio and the Ohio Conservation Initiative. We also worked hard to secure funding for the Ohio livestock community in the form of the new Animal Disease and Diagnostics Lab that will be built at the Ohio Department of Agriculture. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. We also worked together on the first ever Federal Milk Marketing Order Forum to be held in the country with American Farm Bureau. The Ohio dairy producers went along with our crew out there, and they walked away from that forum with an agreement on ideas to reform the dairy system in the country. So we appreciate that. It sets the stage for the next Farm Bill. I also want to thank our Big Six business partner groups, the Harness Horsemen, the Benevolent Horsemen, and all of our foundation partner friends who are up here on stage earlier this morning. What a great group of folks. I want to recognize a couple other people too. We have some retiring friends this year. Director of Ag, Dorothy Planda. Director Planda, we appreciate your very hard work this past year, in particular, well, these past 4 years, but in particular this past year as we jumped into the ADDL lab, this Animal Diagnostics and Disease Lab project. It was very much needed for the state of Ohio to help our livestock industry. She did terrific work. Thank you, Director Planda. I also want to thank Senator Rob Portman as he retires from the U.S. Senate. He's been a terrific friend of agriculture and won the prestigious Golden Owl Award, which is awarded by American Farm Bureau several years ago, for his work at the national level, of course, for agriculture. And of course, our own Bob Gibbs, Representative Bob Gibbs retiring from Congress this year, and our former Ohio Farm Bureau president. Terrific work he's done for us and so many of you guys as he's hosted us on our county president's trips in D.C. for the President's Roundtable that we do up on Capitol Hill, where he's brought in so many terrific guests. As you guys know, this past year, he announced he's passing that duty on to Troy Balderson. So we appreciate Bob working on that and keeping that tradition moving that started with John Boehner a number of years ago. John Boehner did that forum for us for about 20 years. So thank you. I do want to do a round of applause for those guys. So Rob Portman and Bob Gibbs. The fourth goal, organizational strength, is our fourth goal. Sustainable business model is what this means. We've worked hard on this, whether that means being able to attract and retain new talent, have sufficient facilities, or improved technologies. We know that it's been a bit painful sometimes as we move through some of these processes. We appreciate everybody's patience as we do these things. But at the end of the day, we've made great strides in each of those spaces for our organization. Next, I want to thank our State Farm Bureau staff. Can all of the State Farm Bureau staff please stand up? Stand up, guys. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Stand up. We can talk about a lot of successes. It's these guys right here that make it happen. This team does it. It's a terrific group of people. We have assembled a great team, a great family at the Farm Bureau, and they do the work for you guys every single day. I couldn't be more proud of them. They're the ones that make every single one of these things on this list happen every day. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Next, State Farm Bureau Board. 26 of you guys, stand up. There's four new ones too. The 4 new ones, stand up. Stand up, guys. Our volunteers, the amount of time that these guys put in to this organization is unparalleled. The time they spend running across this state and promoting agriculture and spending time together talking about all these important issues and then putting action into motion. It's what they do every day. Thank you, State Board. I'm going to be biased. I couldn't ask for a better State Board. I think I got the best one in the country. I love everything they do for the state of Ohio. So thanks, guys. You do great work. Next, our future is exciting. But that, of course, should not be any surprise to us here in Ohio. As we look back at what Ohio agriculture has done and contributed to the national agricultural scene. So this past summer, we had the pleasure of hosting, for one of only a few times, an American Farm Bureau event here in Ohio. We had almost 500 State Farm Bureau staff come visit us here in Ohio for a leadership training program. There was no volunteers. It was all staff. So we had them from states all across the whole country. They asked me if I could say a few words at the beginning of that event. And I decided I'm going to make sure they got a little taste of Ohio. So I shared with them 3 stories that you guys all know. But they were these stories. First, that in 1902, a gentleman by the name of Albert Belmont, or A.B. Graham, the superintendent of Springfield Township Schools, organized that meeting of 30 boys and girls in the courthouse basement. You guys all know this story. The intent behind that meeting was to learn about harvesting corn, planting a garden, testing soil samples, tying knots in rope, and identifying wildlife, weeds, and insects. 14 years after that first meeting, the 4-H organization officially began, which is now, of course, spread to 50 states, internationally to more than 80 countries, has 6 million members and 25 million alumni. 4-H began, of course, right here in Clark County, Ohio. The second story, of course, I had to share with them was that we have in FFA 700,000 members. They belong to 8,817 local FFA chapters all across the United States, Puerto Rico, and U.S. Virgin Islands. And all of them wear the iconic blue corduroy jacket. Look what we found. This was my jacket. It actually does still fit. Trust me, it does. It still fits. It still fits. As you guys know, what they did was in Fredericktown, Ohio, Gus Lintner was the name of the advisor. In 1933, he had his chapter name stitched on the back in the gold lettering. That same year in 33, they took these jackets to the National FFA Convention in Kansas City. It was so popular that the official delegates made it the official uniform, if you will, for the National FFA Association. And of course, as you guys know, right here, Fredericktown, Ohio, the birth of the FFA jacket, and the original jackets are on display over at the Ohio FFA Center at the Expo Commission. So I wanted to share those couple stories with the crowd, and then of course I shared the third one too. And that was in 1919, right? The story we all know so well. And that was when Ohio Farm Bureau was founded. It was created at The Ohio State University. Our members also had that early vision to create a service that became nationwide. And Nationwide, of course, now being the largest farm insurer in the country. So as we look back at our legacy in Ohio, 4-H, FFA, Nationwide, Ohio Farm Bureau, and so many other terrific achievements that this state has done for ourselves that have contributed nationally to agriculture, we look forward to our future. So leaving you on this, I'm reminded of this old song, this Farm Bureau song. And some of you guys at the County President's Roundtables have already heard me talk about the song, but I found this song when we were doing our research in 1919. It was in a book entitled Organizing the Farm Bureau. And again, 1914, so the beginning of World War I, that book was written. Organizing the Farm Bureau. The song goes like this. I'm not going to sing it. I'll read it. It's good poetry. There are folks that blame the banker. There are folks that blame the laws. There are folks that think that Uncle Sammy is the one who's filled them with the flaws. There are those that keep right on a kickin', no matter who is to blame. But the Farm Bureau is on the job now, and the farmer can play the game. I think that is terrific. It was relevant 100 years ago. It's relevant today. So here in Ohio, our legacy provides our strength. And you're darn right. We know how to play the game, and we play the game to win. Thank you guys for being Farm Bureau members. Let's have a great annual meeting.